Okay, so today I'm going to do episode 3 in my Absolutist philosophy series, and of course these terms and concepts are all things I discussed over the years, and especially stemming from my debate format back in 2013 to 2014, right, which I have some things uploaded on that channel that I made to kind of rehash it and recreate it, but it's not something I ever kept track of at the time, so it was just something I did offhandedly, but some of these concepts are pretty in-depth, so I want to kind of rehash them here a little bit, and so I've done these sessions kind of while driving. So I'm doing it in my car while driving, and like on my, I finally found the solution. It seems like, not to jinx it now, but I sort of finally found the solution to the internet problem that, it would always crash and stuff on mobile data and whatnot. So I have the Starlink Mini, and I'll give it a probably decent review based on this experience so far, not to jinx it. But, again, I put a little stand, I hook it up in my car, and this is working very, very well. Like, it's not crashing, it's not having issues. I even tested playing some games and it was okay. Like, again, it would depend on the area that you're in and stuff, but generally it's been way better than the stupid mobile data, so that's at least a good thing. So Elon Musk saves the day. But no, we have, so episode 1 I talked about social contrivance, episode 2 I talked about, and again, all these terms are from that debate format that I had made for that, so, and again, things that I've referenced over the years, but again, it's not like that was very well known, so I didn't really do a good job of preserving it, so I'll just have to, start fresh here. So, the, episode 1 I did social contrivance, episode 2 I did emotion, so let me give like one logical razor for each. I'm also trying to talk a little quieter this time because it feels like maybe it was like muffled and stuff, so I don't know if that's because I'm in my car or what really causes that, but I'll keep trying different angles. I don't expect it to be super clear, but it shouldn't be so muffled and scratchy like that. So and I'll do it in this landscape format, just so it's easier to see the screen. Not that there's really anything on the screen, but yeah, okay, so social contrivance is merely the way that your self-interest is overextended to the collective. So, for example, everything you're doing for that is like you're just, that's all social interaction is. It might seem like something more when you go delve into it to a deeper degree, but you're just kind of appealing to people's egos as a placeholder for self-interest. So, like, for example, take away social interaction, and then, okay, people would just pursue their own zero-sum self-interest with no inhibition. But instead we say, no, we got to be in a society now where instead of fully practicing your self-interest, you would, or whatever it is that you would do, it doesn't even have to be self-interest, but whatever, instead of doing what you naturally would do without inhibition, now you cut it in half. You say, okay, I'm not going to fully do it, I'll do it in part, and then I'll defer to this collective contrivance state, mass of people, and then in exchange, I'll sort of use social gratification as a placeholder for that value. They say, don't you feel so good about this, as if to make up for the fact that you're not actually pursuing your full measure or self-value there. So you're supplanting gratification for actual value. Then emotion is nothing more than a rational insistence upon the self. That was a key logical razor from that as well. Which again is pretty self-explanatory, but when you say like emotion isn't even productive, so let's look at the two scenarios. In scenario A, you get emotional because something isn't going your way or you want something and it doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do anything, right? If you weren't emotional but you still wanted that thing, you could do one of two things. You could either pursue it and think about the most rational way to go about that, or number 2, you could not pursue it, or maybe you feel like, you're helpless and you can't do anything. But in either scenario, being emotional doesn't help. So you pursue it logically and rationally, not emotionally, to try to best achieve it, or you don't pursue it, you can't, you're, kind of, it's out of your control somehow, so then you just don't do it. But the emotion represents kind of an imbalanced process, right? It's often society or, external pressures and so forth telling you what to do I better make sure the audio is actually working on here because it always fucks up. Hang on. That is kind of against or different than, let's say, your inherent nature. So, like, when society sets in place that, oh, you have to be with one person and you have to marry them and you have to live with a white picket. I guess I did sort of jinx it there. It did just crash a couple times, so I should almost turn off whatever, like, crash protection there is, like, where it restarts the stream, because that's the most annoying part. I'd rather it just crash and stop, because now I have, like, 5 VODs, and then I'll have to download them each, and then it messes them up when I go to edit them, right? That's the most annoying part about the crashes. So maybe I gave this thing too much credit. As soon as I'm praising it, right, giving it a good review, right, crashes for really the first time since I've been using it. The only other time was when I went, like, under the overhang of the shit of, like, the Chick-fil-A drive-through. But maybe that makes sense because, oh, it's, whatever. So, like, anytime something's overhead or something like that happens, right, it could cause a problem because it needs, like, an open view of the sky. But if it's just for a few seconds, it shouldn't be a big deal, like a bridge overhead or if you go through a tunnel or something. So what I was saying is, again, emotional is rational insistence upon the self, even to best achieve that self-interest. Right, it wouldn't behoove you to be emotional. You can be logical about it to reach the same end. It shows you, like, some sort of subversive state that you're kind of valuing something that you don't really value, and that you wouldn't really do normally, naturally, and then overcompensating it with emotion. So this is a good example, like society and marriage. So, like, society wants you to get married, society wants you to be with one person, society wants you to have, white picket fence, like all these preconceived expectations, right? That doesn't mean that those are things that you or human beings inherently want in their, what I call, inherent desired suggested tendencies, kind of observable practice. So again, not saying nobody wants that or you can't do it, right? It's never that framing. It's more that you can do it if then from your perspective you're thrust into that pressure, like, oh, you have to do this. You don't inherently necessarily want it, or everybody doesn't want it or want the same thing, right? But society pressures you, so then you feel like, okay, now you have to overcompensate with the placeholder of emotion to say, well, what are the chances? This is a nearness postulate here. What are the chances that your soulmate out of 8 billion people happens to live in the same general geographical area as you and happen to go to the same school or job or whatever, they live nearby? What are the chances that that person is your absolute soulmate and it's love and it's meant to be, right? But what are the chances they live around you? So could it be that it's not absolute and you have to pretend it's absolute in order to justify and rationalize specifying that larger process, which I call the Stimuli Acme, specifying that to one person, right? So it's more like an emotional, or you basically have to do, like, mental gymnastics to make it work, right? That you wouldn't be able to rationalize that normally, right? To specify to one person, but instead you do it as a placeholder, like, well, it's a placeholder where you bypass critical thinking. So, like, what, like, let's try to define it. Okay, why are you with that one person you're with, whoever, example we might use? You'll say, oh, it's because they're so good looking, they're beautiful, they're handsome. Okay, but by whatever subjective criteria, even how you define that, describe it in great detail, we can break it down and understand that oh, so you're saying there's no celebrity, no model, nobody else anywhere else in the world who could be subjectively as attractive or more so. You'll say, oh, it's because of their personality. Okay, but you're saying nobody else out of 8 billion people in the world could have an equal or better personality, even by your subjective standard, right? So it's like these vague, non-accountable, false absolute things to try to justify and specify something that otherwise could be universally applicable, which also goes into the censor reality fallacy that I talk about, that, oh, you can have this absolute union that's unquestionable and sacred and all this, but all you need to do is cut out of your life 4 billion people of the same gender as what you're attracted to, which I always make the joke with, what if you're bisexual? That, oh, then you can't be friends with all 8 billion people. You can't have any friends at all because for fear that you might invalidate the false absolute by simply interacting and being friends with the opposite gender. Oh no, now you might become attracted to them. So the fact that you have to censor that shows you the fallacy right there. right? It's so absolute that you're so insecure that you can't even be friends with the same gender as that person, which is implying that all it would take for you to, again, be in that same level of attraction would be, oh, it's absolute, but all it would take is simply being interacting with them and being friends with them or being around them for periods of time. That's all it would take. That's how shallow it is. So you try to take a monopoly over it. You say, right, this is a textbook definition of a false absolute, right? It's absolute, it's love, it's meant to be, it's a soulmate, but the way it comes about, the origin point is, oh, they happen to go to the same school as you, they happen to live in the same geographical area as you, something like this, they work at the same job, things that you didn't even choose that you're just reacting to. So, oh, what are the chances that an absolute, that's the key word, not saying you shouldn't do it, not saying what you should do, but what are the chances that an absolute specified exclusive to all others, right? What are the chances that an absolute would be present under those kind of non-choice reactionary circumstances, right? Limited myopic nearness postulate. And then also, you have a situation where, you know, uh, again, the criteria being held accountable. But there was one other thing. It's like, right, what are the chances of that? But also, what are the chances of, like, in order to sustain this absolute, all you have to do, you see, is just don't question it, just don't think about it, perform ritualistic behaviors like you have these symbols, rings, and vows, and social structure, marriage, and all these things which are constructs. You need all these ritualistic tendencies. You have to constantly, remind yourself as if to convince yourself, like, oh, I love you, back and forth. You have to keep doing these things. That again, they're not bad to do. They're not invalidating to do. They're not no one's saying don't do them, but what they would indicate in observable practice, as I call it, would be that, oh, it's not absolute, in other words, because it requires constant contrivance, constant upholding, constant, reinforcement. So by that same logic, well, if you're going to keep doing that, you can do that with anybody or with any circumstance. Okay, I'll try once more. Then I turn on the mobile data too as a backup, even though that's not very good. But I don't know why this is happening now. I was just praising it. I was just saying it was doing fine, right? Like, and you could argue, well, maybe if you're in one spot and not driving. But part of the point of it is so that you can do it like this. In fact, that's almost exclusively what I was trying to use it for, even like the mobile data and stuff. It keeps crashing today constantly. I don't know why. Could be like some outage type issue in the area too, but again, it can't really be that I've exceeded data usage because I have a 50 gigabyte plan thing and I've only used like 5 gigabytes of it. And the hilarity of this that really just triggers me is that look at what I'm actually streaming. I'm streaming the screen of the phone with like a document. Like I could just stream an image. I don't even, have to share the screen, just like a picture, just like a blank, like channel art. Like you're not even doing anything, but yet it's still crashing. That's what boggles my mind. So let me just try to finish the recap. So the second thing I was saying was when society pressures you to do something and then you have to overcompensate with gratification or ego, right? To say, okay, this person is the one and only, and this person is the end all be all. But no, maybe this would help is that you have like the cellular data just as a backup. So if it was gonna crash, then it'll switch to that. Then it can switch back. Like I don't know how it really monitors that, but no, but it's a situation where again, you specify the stimuli acme or any sort of larger process. So how do you rationalize that? You don't, and then you bypass it. You bypass it initially by like again like wooing them or whatever, being wooed in a way that's like bypasses your critical thinking and awareness of the process because if you were aware of it, right? Like imagine a state where a person is fully aware all the time of everything, but oh, that wouldn't work for what society wants because it wants you to reduce you to a subversive, lower value state. And so now it requires you not to think. So now thinking becomes the enemy. It's like shooting the messenger or the observer, right? It's not the process that's at fault. It's your fault for thinking about it or being aware of it, right? And then, or like your fault for not overcompensating for the flawed process. So now what you have next is the ability to consider the fact
that, and I didn't have that on before. I'm doing it for my own benefit to compare. Like this is just an experiment, right? Like none of this shit ever works anyway. But I didn't have mobile data on. I just had the Wi-Fi, just had the Starlink on before, and it was working perfectly fine. It didn't crash. Um, yeah, it didn't crash. I don't think even once. Right when I was driving the same route, everything. So now it's crashed numerous times, like almost 7, 8 times. Um, yeah, we'd have the mobile data as the backup. It'll probably still crash. I don't care. But yeah, again, you're trying to specify something and all that. So you have to bypass critical thinking, right? That you would say, oh, why is this? Why are you with this one person, as opposed to your natural tendency or instinct, or like that you might be with anybody or multiple or like unrestricted. Like, how do you specify that larger process? And so you do it through a false absolute. You say, oh, it's love, it's meant to be, it's the soulmate, right? All things that would not be necessarily held accountable actively. But what you have is the ability to consider that. Again, you have to pose the false absolute in order to specify a larger process. So, right, the basis of something like that. That's why there's so much conflict with it. And again, it's the expectation going into it that is flawed. Right, you're saying, okay, how do I rationalize specifying this thing? We pretend like it's an absolute, that everybody has their own absolute, which is self-invalidating, right? Like, and then it requires constant reinforcement through externality, etc., which you shouldn't need that either if it's truly absolute. So you try to create the illusion of an absolute to try to gratify and satisfy yourself and try to rationalize what would otherwise be just a larger process with no undue emphasis, no exclusive kind of limit to it. Right, especially when you try to pressure it and force everyone to do it uniformly, like across society, that would be the basis of it. Like again, when society pressures the collective mass of people to all do the same thing, and then it's up to the person. It's your fault then for either not doing it, for deviating, like oh, this got to be one size fits all. It's your fault for daring to do something different, or for not doing the process they want you to do, or for not adequately overcompensating for the process, or for doing it in a way that kind of exposes or reveals it, or for this is like one of the great fallacies of society in general, right? If somebody was at peace and free and like just uninhibited, that would be posed as a negative because everyone sees it and like they have to ridicule it to feel at peace with themselves and their own limited, controlled state. So that's what you see with open relationships a lot, right? Somebody who's in an open relationship could just be minding their own business. They're just doing it and they're consensual and that's fine, right? They're just doing their own thing. But they're not telling anybody else to do that. But people who are in single partner relationships or people who are uh, just society in general will attack and look at that. Oh, look at Destiny and Melina. They broke up. So that proves that open relationships don't work because one conspicuous breakup of a certain type of relationship by some celebrity or public figure invalidates that type of relationship overall. I see. So every time a celebrity couple, right, who are I like using single partner relationship. I don't like some of the other terms, but anytime a single partner couple breaks up, that means that they don't work. And the high rate of divorces, etc., would invalidate that. Like, that's such a fallacy. But again, society and individuals cannot look at that. They cannot look at an open relationship and just say, oh, maybe it does work. Maybe they're perfectly fine. Maybe they're content. And if it does work or if you have the option, you can't look at that as just a neutral way or accept it because it reveals and exposes, oh, so in other words, you would want to do that too. Or it exposes that, oh, the only reason why you're not doing that is because you can't control yourself. You don't have self control, or you don't have the options, or you don't have the means or the resources, or you don't, you pretend like you don't want it and you pretend like you do want a more subversive, limited state. And so right, it's difficult to rationalize that. So it's like somebody showing you an example of what freedom would look like in a certain way, and you have to condemn that example and you have to hope and pray and frame it incorrectly that it wouldn't work, that, oh, it doesn't work, it's bad. That way you don't have to question your own subversive state and say, well, how come I'm reduced to this state and pretending that I want this when, oh, if that works, then maybe I would do that too, right? Maybe we would want to do that too. So it completely shows you the insecurity, right? That it's necessary to attack that. Oh, it's bad. It doesn't work. It has all these negatives, right? You have to outwardly insist because you're insecure and not at peace with the cognitive dissonance of your own subversive state. And so that was not the topic that I have listed here, but I'm very upset about the crashes. I don't know why it does that, but let me maybe do something a little else on here for a bit. It just ruins it because I cannot concentrate, and then it keeps cutting me off, and then when I go to download, like, it fucks everything up. So this thing is far from perfect then, I guess. I don't know what happened. That's the thing, I don't even care. Like, I'll pay extra for it, or I'll pay a better plan, but I do have the 50 gigabytes of data, so I don't know why. And I've only used like 5, because I've only done this a couple times. So yeah, that makes me doubt this as well, so we could use like the mobile data as the backup. I guess that's good, like, for if it cuts off for a second. So, like, let's say the Starlink cuts off for just a brief second where it would normally crash. The mobile data can pick it up there for a second, and then it goes back to this, I guess. Right, would be the idea. So you don't really need that to be too strong or too good, but it's just there as an extra bonus. Right, like, I guess that's what IRL streamers do. They'll, like, kind of tether different things together. So they'll have their main mobile data, then they'll have a hotspot, then they'll have something else. Like, they just combine, and there's like a term for it that I forgot. Or yeah, like, the thing too is, what if I want to do like a super long stream now? Like, okay, I want to do this all day. I wouldn't be able to do that, number one, like while out or while driving, especially. Right? I wouldn't be able to do it because that battery pack will run out. So I would need a better one for that because that only lasts about 2 hours at 100% charge, a battery bank, which I don't know if that's the fault of the power bank itself or the Starlink that is just so energy consumptive, which it definitely seems to be. Which again would be a fair trade-off, but then you have all these other issues too. So my only guess is it could be the overhang of the trees sometimes that's getting you. But I was driving on this route before. So again, if I have a mobile data best plan as a backup while also using the Starlink, while also using, I'll have to do that too, the mobile hotspot from my other phone. Like, how many things would I have to do? I mean, I'm just curious. Just to stream a fucking blank screen of a notepad or something, not even doing anything on here. So yeah, I won't do the poly favoritism discussion. Then I'll just save it for next time. But yeah, this would be a good series to bring back. I kind of want to upload them though more. See, I'm usually delayed when I upload stuff. It takes me like 2 weeks to, honestly, to get around. And you might think how, but like, I don't download my VODs until, like, okay, let's say today, normally like Sunday, let's say I'll download my VODs of the week. So I'll download like from last Friday right to this Friday. So we'll go from what days even are these? I already forgot. Um, Friday would have been 31st, so it'd be like the 24th. So yeah, today, let's say I would download the 24th to like the 30th, right? But then I still don't edit those. I edit the ones, I'll download them, but then I'll edit the ones from before that. So the ones that I'm editing right now would be not from the 24th, it would be like from the 17th. Or no, wait. No, I'm even wrong. It's even further back than that. I'd be downloading, I think now from the 10th to the 17th. Right, because again, I haven't even downloaded these VODs yet.
and then I have the other ones downloaded. Okay, let's say the 17th to the 24th, right? But I haven't done them yet. I haven't edited them yet. So I'm always on a delay, which for most things doesn't really matter, right? Like it's just a random video. But if it's something like okay, like I did something Halloween related, then I have to make a point to try to pick that one out and at least edit that sooner if I want to upload it for that. Like something time sensitive, or like when I was doing those permanent first playthroughs of games that just came out, or when I was doing something else like that, some time sensitive. So I'm not too happy about that from the perspective that, I mean, that just ruins the whole fucking thing, right? Right? You have to be able to rely on it all the time. So the cellular data thing maybe helped a little bit, but that's gonna have issues too. Again, that's just to keep it afloat, just to keep it alive, not to actually, um, you shouldn't really need to do it. What's funny is I think when I stream, maybe it's something with the iPhone itself too. Is when I stream on my other phone, I feel like I did that a few times to test mobile streaming, and it worked right pretty well. I don't think it crashed even there. Or maybe I'm trying to do it in too high of a quality, but I'm doing that also to test it, right? Like I'm doing this notepad and I'm streaming at 1080p, but I'm not because I really have to do that. I don't mind streaming at something lower, but it would require you to show that can it do that. So if you can do that, then I can do whatever I want. Or here's just a basic fallacy. That none of this has to do with actually what's on screen either. I'm false advertising my thing, but it's like for example, on an individual level, people are held accountable. Like, oh, look at this person doing this, and they're closely observed, and look at their idiosyncrasies and social this and that. Right? So you judge people harshly on what I call the initial level, like if they're in front of you. But this is the rule by omission fallacy that so somebody's sitting up in a fancy whatever in an ivory tower in a skyscraper, like a big time CEO, all these kind of people, out of sight, out of mind. You're not judging them, right? So this is how you control people. Like you could have somebody that people would judge very negatively. They would say, "Oh, this Jeff Bezos or somebody, Elon Musk is at least very vocal, so people don't like him." So some obscure unknown person is behind all this and getting the money, and you might disagree with everything they think and do and say, and you hate them and whatever, but it doesn't matter because they're out of sight, out of mind. So it's like it doesn't exist. So all that person would have to do is, oh, we're gonna hire some little, innocent old lady, and you know, we're gonna appeal to that. But the problem is that again, that's basically just you falling for the initial level. We put that in front and we control you with it, something kind of lower standard or lower expectation. Whereas if you saw that actual person, then it would be, it's hard to explain, but so like that's all they would have to do to control you. The same exact person that you would object to somehow, right? Whatever it is that you have issue with, you would be okay with it if they just put up like a sort of, it's hard to explain that, like some lower, they do this in certain parts of history, like one of your own kind of a, not exactly like that, but sometimes identity, right? Like, oh, they'll respond better to that, right? So give them what they want to be controlled by, right? Like let's use like colonialism as an example, right? Like they'll get somebody to, let's say the British would colonize India, and then they would get some Indian leader there already, or right, someone who is Indian to enforce their mandates to some extent. So now, oh, it makes it seem a little better than, oh, we're not going to do what the British tell us, but okay, we'll do what one of our own tells us, even if it's on behalf of the British, right? Like it's just putting that little buffer that shows you how easily people are controlled by things like that, the appearances or the level of, again, like this superficial performative aspects and things like that.
the real point is like you're not aware of the larger process. So you're only reacting to what's being shown to you, which is carefully curated and censored out anything that they don't want. So you see how stupid that is to take that seriously. Like, oh, we're going to harshly judge the idiosyncrasies of this person, right? Who's there all the time, who's here every day, whatever, right? Like always in conspicuous view. But we're not going to pay the same attention to the person above them in charge who's out of sight, out of mind. So you almost give them some benefit, right? Because they're not there, you assume the best or something neutral or positive. And because they are there, now you pick on every little thing, right? So it just shows you, again, rule by omission is this term. Very, very important term, right? So the difference isn't necessarily in standard or quality. It's that, again, one of them is there, exposed to you all the time in full view. So therefore you say, uh, now you'll judge and critique every little thing, every idiosyncrasy. But on the flip side, you have on the flip side that could be a part of this. Like you make the sounds according to really dramatic sounds according to the condition of the roads and showing that. And of course, you got to appeal to face cam, cult of personality. That's one thing I don't do. But